What's up, folks? Wyoming IceHole here. I wanted to bring you a video update, just sort of some tips and tricks on how to use the features of the Lucky Fish Finder. So, just a quick run through of the screen you're looking at here. All of the stuff across the bottom is the indicator for what it thinks the bottom structure is. So there's big rocks, little rocks, small, medium rocks. There's big bushes, medium bushes, small bushes. So I honestly would not give a whole lot of credence to what is actually indicated on the screen, except when you are trying to find a different type of bottom, right? So you got a smooth sandy bottom, and you're trying to find the edge of brush or the edge of structure for setting up a fishing hut or something along those lines. That's where this can be useful to you, because you want to look for those transitions, and whether it's a big rock or small rocks or whatever is really irrelevant if you're just trying to find a place where the water changes. So that is all I use for that. That's all I get out of it when I use that. So that's that for you. So some other little tricks that you may or may not know. So here, every time you touch a button, the backlight comes on for a little bit. Doesn't take long, or it doesn't stay on long, but it comes on for a little bit. So one of the most useful things for me is turning that backlight on and leaving it on. So what you do is you hold the setup button, and you'll see in the top left corner there that now we got something blinking, right? And that's the sensitivity setting, but we'll get to that in a minute. I'll tell you what all these do. Oops, I let it time out. So once that starts blinking, hit your setup button again, and it'll move over to the next thing. And I'm going to go to this light bulb. I'm going to hit enter until that little slash goes off of it. And then you hit your power button. That's the fastest way. If you just leave it alone, the setup feature will turn off. But I always hit the power button just because I'm an instant gratification kind of guy. So that's that. So now, as you can see, my backlight is on and it's staying on. Super helpful for things like, I don't know, filming. It's also helpful for when you're in a blacked out hut, you don't have a lot of light coming in, the backlight is nice, and obviously fishing at night. This does drain the battery faster. I can't exactly tell you what rates it drains it at, but it does. Okay, next thing. So we're going to go back into our setup menu here. We're going to hold the setup button down until the first thing starts flashing. And that first thing's what we're going to talk about. Oops, I hit it twice. So I'm just going to wrap around, keep hitting the setup button until my first thing starts flashing again. There it is. Okay. Now, as you can see, my sensitivity is changing. That first little speaker sound looking thing on the left is your sensitivity indicator. If you turn this thing all the way up to max, it will detect every time I move I know for sure I do not 1/32 jig head. This thing's sounding off, telling me there's fish nearby. For me, I leave it set on 4. See 4 little flashing lines there. That's where I leave it. Depending on your water clarity, depending on a lot of other things, you may have to mess with that. But again, even though I'm ice fishing, I do not want this thing sounding off every time I move my jig, and so I turn it to where that doesn't happen. So as you can see, I'm on 4. I've got a 1, actually this is a 1/64th, but I've got a 1/64th in there. Not doing anything. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. Not setting it off, which is great. That's what I want. Let's turn this bad boy up to sensitivity max. I haven't got it to set off a 1/64th jig head before. But let's see if it'll make a liar out of me. There we go. We're on max sensitivity. So now, let's see, can you see the hole? Yeah. Yeah, it's not setting off on this little guy. If I had a spoon tied on, this thing would be setting off and telling me that something just swam by. It did not. It is my jig head. So you notice this thing isn't beeping like crazy and showing fish. I did that on purpose. I just set up my hut, and there doesn't appear to be any fish here. But they'll come. I'll drop a spoon here in a little while and get them in. But that doesn't matter. This isn't a fishing video. So that's sensitivity. So I'm going to go ahead and adjust that back. Put it down on 4, so that when I do use something bigger, it doesn't get crazy on me. Okay, next setting. Thing that looks like a cross, right? It is not an emergency. I actually had someone ask me, is this an emergency alert button? No, it is not an emergency alert button. What that is battery saver mode. So you can turn this thing to battery saver mode and it changes its behavior. It doesn't send sonar flashes so often, and it will completely turn off your screen unless it's detecting something. I never use this. In my batteries, I go through 2 a season, and I'm pretty busy on the ice. And that's if extreme cold weather, and that's me not using the hut, and I just throw this thing on the ice when I'm fishing, not in a hut. Not joking, dead serious. If you see my other videos, you'll see this thing is just laying on the ice, and the batteries work great. It doesn't pull a lot of power. The other thing is I buy high-end batteries. I buy the Duracell Pro Cell. Because I know that I'm going to just throw this thing on the ice, so I want to get the maximum battery life out of it that I can. So that's that. So I'll show you what that does, well, how it changes anyway. And again, it's a feature that I do not use, but I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. You use it however you want to. So here, you can see it changing between things when I hit the button. So now it says BAT in the middle. That means battery saver is on. When it does not say BAT in the middle, that means it is not on, which is how I want it. Alright, this next setting, we're going to go over to the speaker icon. Granted, the thing on the far left certainly looks like it's talking about sound. Again, it is not. It is talking about your sonar sensitivity. This one is what decides whether this thing is going to beep at you when it detects a fish or whether it isn't. As you can tell from any other video I've ever made, I always leave this chirp on, and the reason is because I'm not sitting here staring at this screen. I just want to hear the noise. So I leave this thing without a slash through it. If it has a slash through it, that means it's muted. Without a stripe, that means it is not muted. So I'm going to leave this thing open so that it chirps at me in the event that a fish decides to swim by, which so far appears highly unlikely. The battery life indicator, it only has 3 things. It has completely full, what it is showing now, which is half full, and then it will start blinking and there will be no little fill inside that little battery icon. That means your battery is dying. I have ran this thing for 4 hours with that light flashing on the ice in cold conditions, and it remained on until I got home, or until I finished fishing. I replaced the batteries, and that was the end of that. So when that thing starts flashing, at least in my experience using the Duracell Pro Cell batteries, I can say that you still got 4 hours on this bad boy. That was my experience anyway. So the top right, that's your depth indicator. 5.2 feet is what I'm at right now. Everything else is pretty cut and dry on this thing, except when you start getting into the math, having to do with what field you're actually looking at under the water, and what these little boxes mean. Each one of these boxes is 1/10 of the total depth below the sonar transducer. I'll say that again slower. Each one of these boxes is 1/10 of the total depth below the sonar transducer. So here I'm at 5.2 feet. Let's just pretend for the ease of math I'm at 5 feet. So what is 5 divided by 10? Let's check my Arkansas math. Aha! It is 5. Right? It's not 5, it's 0.5, or half of a foot. Okay? If this said 10 foot, each one of these boxes is 1 foot. But it says 5 foot, so each one of these boxes is 6 inches or half a foot. So when you see a little fish icon come across here, I kind of wish that one would swim by now, so you could see, but when you see a little fish icon here, and it's on the second to last dot over here on the right side, What the fish finder is trying to tell you is that 1 foot off the bottom, so each one of those boxes is 6 inches, 1 foot off the bottom, something just swam by. I get asked all the time, every time I see a fish icon, does that mean it's a fish? No, it does not mean it's a fish. It's probably a fish, but there's lots of other things that swim under the water. There's turtles, there's I don't know, snakes, the Loch Ness Monster. I have no idea what's under there. It's probably a fish, but it may be something else swimming by. It also could be a rogue, if you're in current, it could be like a rogue piece of wood or something going by. Sonar doesn't know whether it's a fish or not. Sonar just knows that, hey, there's nothing here, nothing here, nothing here. Whoa, there's something. And then this thing tells you that there's something just went by. Again, if you're using a big, heavy lure, that could be that thing that it's picking up. So if every time you jig, the icon goes off, but then nothing is going off when you're keeping it still, that's probably your jig going off. So you need to turn the sensitivity down if you don't want it to read that way. But if you do want it to read that way, well, then by all means. I just don't fish it that way. Anyway, so here, each one of those blocks, I've actually never seen something right at the surface, because basically that means it's swimming 6 inches under the transducer. I've never seen any of those top 2 ever sound off. I don't know why, but I haven't. But I can tell you from experience, and you can see in my videos, that down in the lower half of the column, when I see that, I will typically change my jigging location to that if I'm not already there, and then poof, here comes a fish on the end of my line off of that. So this thing works. There's a lot of reviews out there that just slam this thing and paint it in a bad light. I think that is because people are getting this thing for 40 bucks and saying, oh wow, yeah, this thing's going to do everything a Markham LX9 will do. No, it will not. This is a $40 fish finder, folks. It is not going to do all of your intricate magics that your high-end or even higher-end sonars are going to do. That's not the purpose of this thing. Do not buy it thinking that you're going to get to avoid spending $400 for a quality flasher and this thing will do that. That is not what this does. This simply tells you when something is swimming or floating, whatever, underneath this transducer. It gives you a general idea of where in the water column that is, and it gives you a general idea of what is underneath you sitting on the bottom surface, and an absolutely accurate depth reading. These are the things I know that it does. These are the things that my experience shows that it does. Expect no more. All right. Aside from that, for 40 bucks, this joker is awesome. I would recommend anybody who just wants to be able to travel light, hole hop, check depths at various holes before you decide where to set up a permanent tent, like my dumb self did today, or did not do today. It's great for that. Anyway, hope this was helpful. This is an in-depth review of the features of this thing. Very, very shortly, I'm going to put my official 1 year of use review out for you, and that'll be it. That'll be it on me talking about the Lucky Fish Finder. But anywho, so I hope you enjoy, and thank you for all the views I've got on this fish finder already. You're really helping my channel grow with that. Obviously, I would prefer everybody come to see my ice fishing, but you know, that will come. But right now my channel is growing and becoming successful, largely on the back of people viewing my reviews of this fish finder. So that's okay with me. I want to grow, I want to get a bigger audience, and I want to say thank you for helping me do that. Anyway, that's it. IceHole out. And if you have any questions, my email is in my descriptions of the videos. Obviously, I would prefer you use the comment section. But if you have something in depth that doesn't fit in comments, or you don't really want to put it in comments, my email address is there. Ask, and I'll try to answer any question as honestly or as accurately as I can. But thank you. Thanks for watching. And again, take care and be safe out there. Tight lines.